Hi everybody, this is video 4A and I'm going to show you how to create the chord progression for the first 16 bars of your first composition project. All of the documents that I reference in this video are available from the Composition Project 1 page, and that page is linked from the home page for the course. So you can get this blank grid that you see here and you can compose your own chord progression into it. You can also get the finished chord progression that I'm about to show you, and there are links to Noteflight where you can look at the sample chord progression and get a chance to hear it as well. I'm going to use the steps that are outlined on the document called How to Write 8 Measures of Pretty Good Music. And that is also available on the same Composition Project 1 page. We're going to take steps 1 through 3 first in this top grid here. And step 1 is to just draw out these measures on plain paper, or you can print out and use this document. And these represent measures 1 through 8, and then the second time I've just added a couple measures for the different ending, because 15 and 16 have to end on an authentic cadence instead of a half cadence. The first thing you want to do is make sure that in measure 8 you have a dominant function. And then in measure 16, your second time through, it's going to be tonic. See if we can get the rest of that to show up. Now, after that, you can put in your own areas of tonic, predominant, and dominant. Remember that tonic can go anywhere. Predominant, like a 2 or a 4, has to lead to dominant. Dominant leads to tonic, and you can't really go backwards within that. So here's what I've done. You might choose to do something a little different. But I have a tonic, dominant, tonic to start, extending that tonic through measure 4. Remember that I can add all kinds of substitutions and interesting chromatic chords later. A predominant, a dominant, a tonic, and then finally ending with a half cadence on the dominant. And the next step, step 2 on the sheet, is to substitute 1s, 4s, and 5s for each of these things. Remember, this is a very basic background level. So you see the first time I end on the dominant. The second time, this dominant in the third to last measure is going to lead to 2 measures of tonic. And I want to stress again that I'm going to do more stuff here. I'm going to expand this tonic with maybe a pedal 6/4 or a common tone diminished 7th or something like that. So that was steps 1 through 3 on that sheet. Step 4 is to add diatonic extensions or substitutions. And I'll just show you what I mean by that. Here I've added a 7th to my 5 chord. There's a 5/7. I've put a 6 after my 1 and then a 3. Both 6 and 3 are chords that can follow 1 because they're extensions of the tonic. I put a 7th on my 6th chord. I also added a 7th to my 4 chord, so I'm going to have a nice 4 major 7 there. I've changed the dominant to a cadential 6/4. You can call this a C6/4. This is from an older document I had, so it's a 1/6/4. As we know, it's all the same thing. It's an expansion of the dominant. I've also expanded the first time. My 1, I go through a 3 up to a 5, so I've expanded the tonic here. And then I've put in that pedal 6/4 to embellish my 1 the second time. And notice that I still have 5 going to 1 the second time. Step 5 is to add secondary functions, and you might notice that we're kind of expanding on these chords in the order that you learned them. You learned 1, 4, and 5 first, and then you learned your 6 chords and your 3 chords. You learned your diatonic 7th chords. The next thing you learned was 5 of and 7 of. And then after that, you learned your borrowed chords and your augmented sixths and chromatic medians and all the things we've learned this semester. So you want to think about adding them in that order because as we go on learning the chords, they get more and more chromatic. So I'll show you what I've done for step 5. This is a little hard to see here, but this is a half diminished 7th. It's a little hard to see the symbol in the video. Let me see if I can make it a little bit larger. There we go. So this is a 7 half diminished 7 of 5. So I've put a secondary function before the 5 chord. Another thing I've done is put a 5, 7, a 4 before the 4, 7. And notice I'm not going crazy with these. I only added 2 secondary dominants because I want to keep some space available, maybe after the 4, to add a chromatic predominant here. I could add a Neapolitan after this, or a German. Over here in this empty space after the 5, I could add an altered 5, like an augmented or a 5 flat 5. So just be sure to leave enough space so that you can get in all the fun chromatic chords that you need to use in this project. So in step 6, I suggest that you can add chromatic predominants, and then in step 7, chromatic medians. And I sort of have combined those here. So here's our next step. Uh-oh. Let's try that again. There we go. So in this step, I have added a 2 half diminished 6/5 after the 4. That's a borrowed chord. It has lay in it. And I've added a German 6th before the cadential 6/4. This measure has gotten very, very busy because now I have 3 chords in it. It's probably going to turn out like a half note and 2 quarter notes. Try not to really put any more than 2 chords per measure. And another note about the German 6th, because this is a pop or jazz sort of style, you can go German 6 straight to 5. That is very typical in this style, and the parallel fifths are fine, and they're even routine. So that's okay if you want to go straight to 5. Again, I do have 3 chords in this measure with the cadential 6/4. Try not to do that very often. Here I have a flat 3 instead of a regular 3. There's a chromatic mediant that I've added. And for my finishing touches, I'm going to add some upper extensions like 9ths, 11ths, and 13ths. And I'm also going to add some common tone diminished 7th chords, and some altered dominants, as a matter of fact. So here, after my 5/7 in measure 2, I've added a 5/7 augmented 5. And then I've changed my 5/7 of 4 to a 5/9 of 4. And then, remember, this is still a 2 half diminished 6/5. The symbol isn't showing up very well here. After my final 5 of my first phrase, I've added a 5/7 flat 5. And the second time through, again, be very careful about putting 3 chords in a measure. Don't do it very often. But here I have it with a 1, a pedal 6/4, a common tone diminished 7th, and a 1. I'm going to pause this and open up Noteflight so that you can see what this looks like and hear what it sounds like. Here is my sample progression in Noteflight, and you'll notice that I voiced it in keyboard style, 3 notes in the right hand and 1 note in the left hand. I'm going to play this, and you can listen to it. There's also a link inside the page where you can go and listen to it on your own computer. And you can look at some of the annotations that I've added as well. Here is what it sounds like. Notice that I've kept my outer voices in contrary motion. I've tried to avoid parallel fifths or octaves between the soprano and the bass. And I've done my best to resolve tendency tones in the outer voices. For example, this 9th in the 5/9 of 4 resolves down by step. And in the German augmented 6th, I've used the Swiss spelling here with re instead of may. But in any case, I resolve it up to mi and lay down to sol in the bass and fi to sol in the inner voice. So try to be very mindful about resolving tendency tones in the outer voices and don't leap a lot. Notice that my soprano really doesn't ever move by anything but a step. Here I have my 5, then my 5 flat 5 with T on the top, and it resolves to Do, and that's why in measure 9 this chord is voiced a little differently than it is in measure 1 where it has mi on the top. And then I do leap up a third so I can get the same voicing that I had in measure 1 before. But by and large, your soprano line should be smooth, mostly stepwise, contrary motion to the bass, and avoid parallels. That is all for this video. Thank you for watching.